Oh, we have slipped the surly bonds of earth and danced the sky on laughter-silvered wings. Welcome to American Esoterica. If history class gives you the BERT, this is the ERNIE, the essential stuff in between, the personalities, events, and other ephemera that shape our history and culture. I'm Brian Powers. We're about to take an ambling, self-indulgent, and overly nerdy trip. One that will take us to the moon and back. But it all starts in a bicycle shop in Dayton, Ohio, around the turn of the last century. We all know most of the particulars of that story, though. It's what's happened since it's been so uplifting. Our first stop on this journey is now. Right now, in fact. We're usually not so on the nose with timing, so let me set the stage for what's probably about to happen as of the recording of this episode. Within the next few weeks, a manned crew will head to the moon for the first time in over 50 years. Also, currently, the largest wingspan plane of all time is the Stratolaunch Rocket, which was designed by the same people who built the first private spacecraft. It was designed to give rocket payloads a head start by launching them as high in the atmosphere as the plane can fly. It took its first flight in 2019, and in 2024 it launched its first payload, a nearly hypersonic rocket. Oh, I should mention that the plane's wingspan is that of two 747s side by side, over 60 feet longer than Howard Hughes' Spruce Goose, which until 2019 easily held the record. Right now, the largest passenger plane in the world is the Airbus A380, which is certified to hold up to 853 passengers, but could hold more in a pinch. Of course, the most passengers ever on a plane occurred during Operation Solomon on May 24, 1991. This rescue effort to bring Ethiopian Jews to Israel resulted in a flight record of 1,122 passengers on a Boeing 747. That's a little more than half the number of Titanic passengers on a single plane. 2 babies were even born in flight. Okay, so these are a whole lot of random facts and figures, but what I'm trying to do is create a sense of the magnitude of the accomplishment of flight. We all know about the accomplishments of the Apollo program, or the productions on a soundstage in Burbank, depending on whether you believe random internet nutjobs, but we'll stop for one brief moment on July 20th, 1969, when Neil Armstrong planted the American flag on the moon, just 65 and a half years after the very first powered human flight. That may sound like a long time, but as of right this moment, going back 65-ish years ago would have placed you squarely in the year of JFK's election as president, which conveniently serves as our next historical stop, because it was a genuinely historical era for aviation. Starting in 1959, only 56 years after that momentous flight at Kill Devil Hill, the CIA chose a design of an airframe from aircraft manufacturer Lockheed to bear the designation A-12 and succeed the U-2 as America's premier spy plane under a top-secret program called Project Oxcart. These new planes were designed to fly at blisteringly fast speeds, over 3 times the speed of sound. To put this leap forward in capability into perspective, the sound barrier was broken only 12 years prior in 1947. The biggest problem that the new A-12 would have was the heat. You don't fly at Mach 3.2 without getting air friction, so the new planes would need to be made of different stuff. Lightweight and extremely durable, the right metal for the job would turn out to be titanium. There was just one small problem with that. The biggest supplier and primary source of titanium in the early 60s? That would be the Soviet Union. So, the CIA did the CIA thing, creating a series of shell companies to buy titanium from the Soviets, which they would then use to spy on their titanium supplier. If the name A-12 isn't ringing a bell, that's because it was upstaged by one of its kid brothers. The Air Force wanted in on the action, so Lockheed's Skunk Works division made some updates to the A-12 design and produced not just one, but 3 siblings to the A-12. One of them, the M21, existed to deploy a large jet-powered drone. That didn't work out well, as the dynamics of the airflow at high speeds caused the drone to slam back into the carrier plane upon release, destroying it during a test flight. Another model, the YF-12, was designed as an interceptor fighter jet, but it got canceled early into its service. That leaves us with the one sibling that you've likely heard of, but there's a legitimate question of how it got its name. See, planes are usually named for the role they play. F is for fighters, B is for bombers, etc. Planes that perform dual roles, they get a dual designation, such as in the RF-101 Voodoo, which was a reconnaissance version of the F-101 fighter. So that's how it was supposed to be with the new reconnaissance strike plane. But Lyndon Johnson changed all that. In the 1964 election, Johnson wanted to fend off Barry Goldwater's attacks that the Kennedy-Johnson years neglected to shore up our defenses against the Soviets, and he did so with a speech announcing the Air Force's newest technical marvel. Folk history has it that Johnson messed up, but it suggested that maybe the script he was given had been edited by the head of the Air Force, General Curtis LeMay, who transposed the 2 letters of the plane's designation on purpose because he liked it better that way. What is clear is that, after Johnson's speech, an order went out officially changing the name of the plane to SR-71, instead of the RS-71 it had been prior to the speech. Nobody wanted the president to be wrong, so SR-71 it was. So let's make another big leap backward in time to reset the calendar. Back to 1903, that bicycle shop and those lowly bicycle makers, Wilbur and Orville Wright. That's more than a bit of an understatement, because these two were busy perfecting the tools they need for powered flight, including early wind tunnels. They didn't just invent the airplane, they invented the entire concept of aeronautical engineering itself, and they did so from scratch. They didn't just slap some wings and an engine together. They had to learn about lift, propulsion through thin air, and 1,000 other concepts for which humanity had no prior experience, such as getting it in the air is fine, but then how do you control it? They were really aeronautical engineers that just happened to also make bicycles. Let's move forward a few steps again. It's 1903, and Thomas Selfridge becomes the first fatality of a powered plane crash. Orville Wright is piloting his company's latest innovation on a military demonstration flight, and Selfridge, a close associate of Alexander Graham Bell, does that name ring a bell? Dies after a propeller shatters and the flyer slams into the ground. Selfridge was the very first Army officer to fly solo in a powered aircraft and becomes the very first person to die in one. It's 1912, and the Wright brothers are now down to just Wright brother after Wilbur Wright succumbs to typhoid fever at age 45. It's 1914, and the Great War ushers in a new era of rapid aviation advancement. First is reconnaissance, then is fighters and bombers, as each side scrambles for air superiority for the very first time, just barely a decade after the invention of the airplane. It's 1927, and Charles Lindbergh flies the Spirit of St. Louis in the first solo non-stop transatlantic flight. Powering the plane is the Wright J5C engine, a direct tie back to the original aviators. It's 1936, and the Douglas Aircraft Company, just 33 years after the invention of powered flight, builds the DC-3, an aircraft so resilient and reliable that many are still in operation in actual commercial and military roles even today. The oldest version still flying was the 43rd aircraft off the line in 1937, and it's been taking to the skies for 89 years. It's 1941, and Japanese carrier-based fighter aircraft attacked Pearl Harbor, drawing the United States into World War II through the first preemptive aerial attack. It's 1944, and the first operational jet fighter, the Messerschmitt Me-262, enters combat, soon to be joined by others as the war draws to a close. And the giant and powerful B-29 bomber delivers the first glimpses of a terrifying new era by dropping nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan, bringing war in the Pacific Theater to an abrupt end. It's 1947, and pilot Chuck Yeager, nursing broken ribs from a fall off a horse, uses a piece of a broom handle to close and secure the door to glamorous Glennis, the Bell X-1 aircraft he's named after his wife. He becomes the fastest man alive, and the first to travel faster than the speed of sound. It's January 30th, 1948, and Orville Wright has witnessed all of this. The triumph of humanity taking to the skies, the terrifying prospect of a new and far more deadly form of warfare, and the exhilarating quest for speed. He's responsible for all of it. He passes away of a heart attack at age 76, still in his beloved Dayton, Ohio. We know this: without Orville and Wilbur Wright, there's no commercial air travel, there's no space travel, there's no slipping the surly bonds of Earth. And speaking of high flight, the poem quoted just now and at the top of the episode, it was written by John Gillespie Magee Jr., an aspiring American poet who joined the Royal Canadian Air Force to fight in Britain before the United States joined the war. He wrote High Flight and sent it to his father in September 1941. The poem would formally be published the next year, but only after its author died in a mid-air collision 3 months after writing it, at the age of 19. Having trod the high untrespassed sanctity of space, put out his hand and touched the face of God. This has been American Esoterica. All sounds were made by me, Brian Powers. Did I get it wrong? Did I get it right? Just want to talk about how much of a plane nerd I am? I think it's obvious now. Drop me a note. The address is yell@americanesoterica.com. More information on the show can be found at americanesoterica.com. Thank you for listening, and God bless America.